Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm just going to wait for a couple of minutes, as we always do, to let everyone start logging in. Please let me know when you're here so I can get started on the live feed. Tonight I'm coming, I'm on the Gold Coast at the moment, and I'm currently staying in my rental property, and that's all going great. But what I discovered when I just went to do my live test at about 1:45, hey Gwenda, welcome. Hey Hillary. When I went to do my live test to make sure that everything was working properly, I realized that I didn't have enough service at my rental property to be able to bring the Monday Night Live to you. So what I've done is I've jumped in the car and I've raced down to basically the beachfront, because I knew that there were sort of picnic tables here and I would have light so I can see my notes, but I am coming to you holding my phone, which I normally don't do. Normally it's up on a stand of some description, so I apologize in advance if it's a little bit wonky, but yes, I'm coming to you from the beach. So as you can see, the Surfers Paradise skyline there behind me, and it's a nice outdoor studio this evening. So I'm excited to be here, and you know, we've been up at Cabarita Beach. Hi to anyone who was at the Cabarita Beach Clinic over the weekend. We had a great time doing balance and transitions, and we, as always, just saw some really cool stuff with the horses and people, and some really nice big changes, and horses really starting to find their own balance and motivating them to do that. So it's always such fun for me to teach any kind of clinic. Hey Beth. Hey Michelle. Beth was with us over the weekend. It was so good to see Beth and her big boy Khan, who has just come so far in the couple of years that she's had him, off the track thoroughbred, and she's doing an amazing job with him. He just looks fantastic. So it's so good to see. Hey Kathy. Kathy was there as well, with her big boy, just moved up from Canberra. Hello Mummy, on my dad's Facebook account, just in case anyone's wondering. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. Had a great weekend. My voice is still a little bit croaky. It hasn't fully recovered from the sickness that I had in the United States. Obviously, you know, I talk every weekend, and so it just hasn't had time to rest or recover. So I'm hoping that over the next couple of days I won't be talking very much, and until my Liberty Clinic starts at Cedar Grove on the weekend. But anyway, for now, we're talking Monday Night Live. We're talking about when do we take it to the next level. So that's the topic of tonight. And I want to talk about a few things in regards to taking it to the next level with our horses. And one of the first things that I want to talk about is start how you mean to finish. So what I mean by that is sometimes we fall into the trap of communicating or talking to our horses knowing that they don't know what we're about to ask them. So let's say we're teaching a young horse how to back up from pressure on the chest, and we'll approach that horse, and we know, because he's a baby or because he's a foal or because he's unhandled or whatever the case may be, that he doesn't know what we're about to ask him. So we tend to go quite hard to him and touch him the first time quite strongly, and teach him to back up from quite a strong touch. So you can't go backwards from that. You can't get lighter, because what he understands is that level of pressure is what he moves back from. So what we have to really make sure that we're doing is that we are starting where we mean to finish. So that's with the lightness that we want to end with. So for that young horse that I was teaching to back up off pressure, I would start with just the lightest touch that I possibly could, and I would slowly increase that until the horse stepped back, and then I would release, and then I would start again with the lightest touch. So don't fall into the trap of saying to yourself, I know he doesn't know this, so I'm just going to go right ahead and add a lot of pressure to make him do it, because you'll always have to use that level of pressure when communicating with your horse. So lightness, responsiveness, and the language style that you're going to use. So I work with, hey Lisa, hey McNutt, welcome. I work with a lot of young horses or unhandled horses, foals, that kind of thing. And what we want to try and do is establish a language with them that we're going to use through their entire time with us, and hopefully through their entire life. So when I am talking about a language, I'm not talking about particularly a method of I'm talking about a method of teaching. I'm not talking about the how of teaching. So using backup as an example, there might be 5 or 6 different ways, or there's probably more, that I could teach a horse how to back up, but it's the method that I use to teach him, i.e. pressure and release, that is got to be consistent through his whole life. So if you're going to use pressure and release to teach him how to back up, then you need to use pressure and release to teach him how to go forward, how to go sideways, how to do it. It's got to be consistent through everything. So start the way you mean to end, in lightness, responsiveness, and your methodology, I guess, and the language that you're going to use. The second thing that we need to consider when we're talking about taking it to the next level is our expectations. So what we want to do, and as I said, I start very light with, say, the horse that I'm teaching to back up, but I want to gradually increase my expectations. So when he first is learning, I might accept that he just rocks back and looks like he's about to back up, and then a couple of days later I'm going to expect 1 step, and then a couple of days later I'm going to expect 2 steps, and I'm going to build it from there. I'm not certainly going to require a horse that has never done something before to give me 100 meters of backup straight away on day 1, because he won't understand that, and what he will begin to do is change what he's giving me as an answer, because he'll think that he's wrong because I keep asking him to back up for 100 meters instead of releasing straight away. So build gradually on your expectations, and build gradually on the length of time that you want your horse to do it for. So the length of the backup, or the length of time that you're asking him to hold a collection or a soft feel or something like that. So the idea for this Monday Night Live came because I've been talking to a lot of people recently, and they might be contacting me about, say, the clinic on the weekend, balance and transitions, or the clinic I've got coming up this weekend being collection and engagement. And they'll go, oh, my horse isn't ready for collection and engagement. And I say, well, every horse that I ride, I introduce the concept of collection and engagement to. I won't necessarily expect him to hold collection or hold engagement for any extended period of time, but I'm certainly going to introduce to a colt that I'm starting under saddle, on his 4th or 5th ride, the concept of collection, or the concept of engagement, the concept of balance. So he understands that that's something that's going to be in his future. So it's not a completely alien thing. Some of the horses that I see struggle the most are horses that have been, for example, ridden on a freestyle rein for many, many years, and then you start picking up on that rein and having the expectation that they might give you a bit of soft feel, or you have the expectation that they might give you a little bit of collection or whatever it may be. And the horse is very confused because for 5 years there's been a pattern of, I've got no contact on the reins, and so then that horse says, well, 1, what is this? I don't understand it when you pick up on the reins. And 2, he gets a little bit worried about it because he doesn't know what to do when you do that. Whereas when I start a young horse, I certainly don't ride him around in collection or ride him around on contact, but he understands what it means when I pick up on 2 reins, and he understands what my idea is or what the concept is. So then when he goes home and he starts progressing through his training, and in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months or 15, whatever it is, the owner picks up, the horse says, oh, I remember this. I do know what the expectation is here. And then he can be asked to perform that for more and more extended periods of time when you build his athleticism. So building gradually on your expectations, but definitely introducing the concepts of everything you're going to want that horse to do through its life in little tiny increments. The next thing we need to do is assess our horses regularly. So what I mean by that is sort of standing back a little bit and taking stock of everything that we've taught our horse to date and making little assessments on how he is with that, you know. Is he willing in a particular maneuver? Is he understanding the maneuver straight away? Is he consistently giving me the maneuver when I ask for it? Or is he giving me a couple of things that are incorrect and then offering the correct maneuver, which means he doesn't quite understand exactly what I want when I put a certain cue on. So I want to do these little assessments so I can find the holes in his training or the holes in his foundations, and I know where I can help him and focus on to help him understand what it is that I expect when I give him that cue, when I pick up on 2 reins, or when I open my hand for a turn on the haunches, or when I ask for a lateral bend or something like that. I need to assess all the time, does my horse understand these cues? Does my horse understand what it is that I'm asking him for? And if the answer is yes, and that's great, that can be an indicator that he's ready for maybe a little bit more in his training. Or if the answer is no, it shows me, I need to go back and put that in there a lot more solid. I need him to really understand what it is that I'm asking for when I do that maneuver. The next thing that we have to really take on board, and we had a big discussion about this over the clinic on the weekend, is that our foundations are everything. So, you know, when I speak to people, the language of horse training in general is that basics or foundations or groundwork or any of those things, even written foundation essentials, are something to move beyond. So we all consider it, and I guess maybe the term foundations gives us an indicator that it is the beginning of the journey, which it is, but it is also something that we are perfecting day in and day out when we're talking to our horses. So you talk to any athlete, you know, be it a horse trainer or be it a runner or be it a gymnast, they're always perfecting the very basics of their craft, and that's what we need to be doing with our horses. We should be always looking for the perfection in our basics. So if we consider a lateral bend a basic, am I getting a world champion level lateral bend every time I ask my horse? I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be no to that. So the journey of developing our foundations is endless. Yes, we get to a point where we use our foundations as a guideline to say, okay, my horse is maybe ready, and in my particular curriculum, I guess you'd call it, the TKH curriculum, what comes after our foundation essentials is our primary skills. So when my horse is pretty fluent, I guess, or consistent in my foundation essentials, that's my cue to move on to my primary skills. And then when my horse is consistent in his primary skills, that's my cue that I can go and start adding into his training the core skills. But it's an add into, it's not a, oh, we've moved beyond foundations now, we don't need to do foundations anymore. It's a, oh great, he understands foundations, he understands primaries, I can start adding in core skills now, and we keep adding to the cake mix, you know. So if every single cake on the planet, which I know now they don't because we've got, you know, dairy free and vegan and all the rest of it, but just a basic cake mix all has flour, all has eggs, all has, I don't know, sugar probably, and then we start to add the flavor to that. So if we consider our foundations as being our cake mix, and our primaries and our core skills are our other ingredients that are adding flavor and adding a bit of extra yumminess to our cake, then we understand that it's all something, you know, the next time, hey Hannah, hey Angie, then we know next time we bake a cake, we don't leave out the basic ingredients and start with all the cool stuff. We still put the basic ingredients into that cake mix and then add the cool stuff on top. So I hope that that's an analogy that we can identify. It makes me want cake, but I hope that's making sense to everyone. Introduce your concepts, let's call them concepts, so your next level, which I hate using the word level for all the reasons that I just described. Introduce the next lot of skills that you're going to do with your horse very quietly. So when I'm on a colt and I'm picking up on 2 reins for the first time and I'm expecting or looking for perhaps a little give or a little soft feel, I'm not on there bumping on his nose and saying, this is what you should do. I'm guiding him. I'm picking up on 2 reins and I'm saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think you should do when I do this? And the colt goes, maybe I should put my head up in the air. And I go, oh no, that's not it. And then he goes, maybe I should turn to the left. And I go, yeah, no, that's not it either. And then he goes, maybe I should just give you a little bit of soft feel in your hands. Maybe I should give to your hands and maybe lift up my belly a bit. And I go, yeah, that's it. Good horse. And then we don't do it again that day. You know, I just introduce it nice and quietly, nothing to worry about. There's the concept of soft feel. And then the next day I say, maybe here's a concept of soft feel again, or maybe I say, here's a concept of balance, here's the concept of collection, here's the concept of accuracy and focus. Whatever it is, if we introduce it nice and quietly, we don't scare our horses, and we keep them a little bit interested in you know, what it is we're doing in our training. They sort of go, oh, I haven't done this before, but it feels really interesting. If you teach it the right way, that's going to be the attitude of your horse. If you teach it in a way where you're like, this is what I'm doing and this is my expectation and this is how it should be, then you're just going to scare him. Then he's going to say, well, I'm too scared to even try anything, so I'm going to go ahead and not respond, or I'm going to jack up, or I'm going to buck, or I'm going to try and bite you, or I'm going to do something because I'm worried about what it is that you're asking me to do. The next thing I wanted to say was that we need to remember that our horses pretty much know everything that we're going to ask them to do. So when they're foals in the paddock, they know how to collect. You see them playing, they bolt around, you know, they know how to balance. Obviously foals learn that because they run around like crazy and then they fall over and then they think, oh, I wonder why I fell over. Maybe it was because I was out of balance. And they get up and they run around again, much like a human child does. You know, they learn motor skills and they learn all that cool stuff that we want to do, you know, balance and transitions and accuracy and all that kind of stuff. Our horses all know how to do that. We are simply building in a cue. So whilst we have to teach them a lot because we're introducing the saddle and we're introducing the weight of the rider, fundamentally our horses know those things that we're doing. So keep that in mind when you're teaching your horse things. You're building in a cue so you get what you want when you ask it. Keeping them interested with new work but not demanding perfection. So I just touched base on the way I would do that, introducing the concepts, introducing little things that keep the horse motivated and intrigued by our work, instead of going, you know, horses don't get bored. I hear that a lot from people, like, oh, my horse is bored. And, you know, next week's Monday Night Live is probably going to be about resentment and boredom, because a lot of people speak to me about, oh, my horse is bored. When I do a lateral bend, he's bored because we've done it so many times. Well, I could probably guarantee that your horse, the average horse, hasn't done it as many times as my horses, as demo horses that have to do it hundreds of times over the weekend, and they do it every weekend of the year. And my horses aren't bored from lateral bend, but there's a reason for that, and that's what we'll talk about in the next Monday Night Live. My horses aren't resentful of it. And they're still motivated and intrigued and happy to do a lateral bend, even though it's the first thing that they learnt when they got started under saddle. So keeping them interested and motivated with the work that we're asking of them. Slowly start to increase those expectations. So what we tend to do, and this is another conversation that we had over the weekend, is when we're teaching a young horse or a colt, we tend to really know to release. We almost, and I'm not going to say over-release, but we almost over-release. I'd rather over-release than under-release though. But what we tend to do is say, oh, he's a baby, so 1 repetition's good. Oh, he's a baby, 1 repetition's good. And then one day a switch flicks in our brain and we go, he's not a baby anymore, now he should do 10 steps. Instead of saying, well, if he was doing 1 or 2 steps yesterday, maybe now it's 3 or 4 steps, and then next week it's 5 or 6 steps. Instead of going through a phase of an intermediate horse, we tend to go from baby / green horse to okay, now he's been in work for so long that he's not a baby anymore, so now we've got to increase the expectations, and we get all busy with him. And that's a concept that he doesn't understand or doesn't have any idea about either, because we've never done that to him before. You know, it's always been, hey, here you go, you know, good horsey, you've done 1 or 2 steps, or you've tried, or you've done this, or you've done that. So I think we really need to keep in mind a slow increase of expectations of repetition, of quality, and of all of those things that we're asking of our horses. The last thing I want to touch base on is just, and those of you who have been to my clinics before and we've spoken about this, is the concept of singular focus training, which is how I like to introduce things to my horses. So remember, when you're training and when you're doing things with your horses, to focus on one good thing at a time. I like to say I'm a heat-seeking missile for being able to reward my horse for doing the right thing. And that's what keeps my horses fresh and interested and intrigued, because they're always looking for that little thing that makes me go, yes, good horse, that was excellent. And it could be at any level. It could be a lateral bend all the way up to a pirouette. You know, all the way along the way, my horses are always looking for, oh, hey, how do I get that big reward? And that's because they know that I'm always focused on one great thing. I just want one great thing at a time, and then I can start to combine those things together. So that hopefully is gives you some idea of when to take things to the next level. I really don't consider anything to be taboo to our horses. You know, I don't believe in limiting behaviour, and I mean that from a perspective of the horse and the rider. As long as it's done in a way that is with a generosity in your heart and a let's try this attitude, I don't think there's any reason why we can't be saying to our horses, hey, let's try a pirouette today. You know, what's the big deal? You know, I don't think there's any reason for us to limit ourselves as a rider either and say, oh, I'm not good enough to try a pirouette, or I'm not good enough to try a flying change. Well, who says that? And who, you know, who's the... you know, who's the God that gets to make the decision on, oh, you're ready to do a flying change today, oh, you're ready to do a pirouette today. As long as you do it in such a way that is exploratory and with a generosity and an intriguing, adventurous way, then if you try a flying change and it doesn't work, then okay, no love lost. If you try a flying change and then you hammer your horse because he didn't get it right, then you're barking up the wrong tree. You're not gonna be successful. But maybe you'll go out and try a flying change and go, oh wow, I got a flying change. That's pretty cool. Good horse. Let's quit the session today. You know, I really don't believe in limiting behaviour, and I hear a lot of it. I hear a lot of people who will say to me, oh, my coach says I'm not ready for that, or, you know, and I'm not trying to bag coaches or anything. You know, I'm a firm believer of having coaches and eyes on the ground and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm also a firm believer of is having surrounding yourself with people that empower you, not people that try and disempower you or keep you somewhere, you know, limited or, you know, tell you that you're not good enough to try something, because I really think that there's no harm in trying, providing that we approach things at the right mental attitude. So Hillary's saying, so relevant to Bessie. You're very welcome, and I'm glad. And Michelle is saying, thanks, Tanya, I needed to hear this today. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you heard it today then, Michelle. So thank you all for joining me tonight, and I hope it wasn't too difficult to watch with the phone being held in my hand. I did try and keep it really still, and hopefully my phone is doing that thing that iPhones are supposed to do and stopping the shaking and all that sort of stuff. If you're coming, I can't wait to start my 2 clinics at Cedar Grove. So Thursday, Friday, we've got a Liberty clinic, which I'm really excited about, and we've got 2 spots left there. And on the weekend, we've got a collection and engagement clinic, which we've got a few spots available. That's a ridden one. So please contact me if you'd like to book in for those. Cedar Grove is at the northern end of the Gold Coast too. I've had a few people say, where's Cedar Grove? I don't know where it is. So that's where it is. It's a Gold Coast clinic. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that's where I'll be. And then Monday down to my Bangers crew. and then off home on Wednesday. So I've been away for about 12 days now. So it's been great to see everyone back home in Australia. And you're welcome, Gwenda. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next Monday, or at a course, or on Facebook. And I hope everyone has a great week. Talk to you all soon. Bye.